Go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. This would normally be my Saturday sit rep. We're going to forego Saturday sit rep because I have a conversation I want to have with a young man, and I say young man because anybody that is younger than me, especially by more than 5 years, is still young. And we're going to be having Nathan Miller on. He's running for Senate in this. He's actually going to primary for Senate District 9. And we're going to have him on, talk a little bit about his campaign and why and who and what he is. He does have to work tonight, so we're not going to be able to do one of our long chats, but we'll see how long we can keep him. He has a real job. It's okay. He's not just like a paid politician who just runs around in campaigns all the time. But before we get rolling on that too much, you guys make sure you check out the merch, the coffee, the mugs, the tumblers, the lowball glasses, the mason jars, the shot glasses. I got coasters now made out of slate. If you haven't checked those out, the coffee's, the coffee's the hook. Once we get you with the coffee, we're going to get you with everything else. The other thing that we got going on right now, if you aren't aware, is I've started a Subscribe Star. So if you like the content and you want to continue to see the content come out and you want it to get better, we all do, right? You can go and subscribe to Subscribe Star, and there will be Subscribe Star exclusive content provided by way to links for videos that are set to private and whatnot. So you're going to be able to watch those. One of those is going to be a little bit of an outtake that I had from Spike Cohen last night, where he talks about what it looks like for libertarians to actually win and have a majority. And those are important conversations for us to have. And then the other one I want to remind you guys of is my friend Laura, who has a Rocky Mountain Health and Wellness. She is practicing now in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. And there will be a link in the description of this video for you to go and check her out as well. She is all about medical health care freedom. She went through the ringer with her former employer and ended up losing a career that she thought she wasn't going to get back. And she went out on her own and launched her own business. And I would love to see people in those states, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. I would love to see those people out there who are looking for someone who respects and cares for medical freedom to start to do business with her, because she is amazing. And she's a doctor and a nurse practitioner. So she's smarter than everybody in the room right now. So let's see. We got, hey, Judson, tuning in all the way from Georgia. But let's do this. Let's bring Nathan in. Nathan, thanks for waking up early and making time for this. You have a fan base. Whoops. You have a fan base watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
People are watching.
That's awesome. I've got.
So you're a small business owner twice through you and your wife both own a small business. You're kind of a farm country guy.
Oh yeah.
And you also have a full-time job.
Well, yeah. I actually do. I do have the rental properties that I've been running for, the one for 9 years, and the other one we just recently bought again last year in Otter Tail County. And then my wife Anna, she's been she's got her photography business, and she's got a couple. She still does hair on occasion too. And then I try not to work full time with this with boiler operating around the state of Minnesota, but I've got my boiler and turbine, my first class boiler and turbine license. So I end up traveling around the state and covering shifts in lots of different plants, different industries.
It's a high
Um,
demand job, something
it
like
is,
that.
it
A
is,
boiler
yes.
license. Which level of boiler is that?
It's a first class. So there's one more level after that, which is a chief license. Got the time and grade to do it. I could take the test actually this year still. So potentially going to end up doing that yet. But yeah, then you're unlimited size on your boilers that you can be the chief of and operate. So
And and have a relative level of assurance that you're not going to blow the entire facility apart.
yeah, that's the idea. Yes,
Mm.
exactly, exactly. We have
Well, that's
uh,
unfortunate because that takes all the bang out of work.
well, we had some excitement last night actually, where I was at. We had to e-stop the boilers because we had a power outage on the factory side, and it resulted in them losing control, like driving down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, and then you lose power or you lose control of your steering wheel, but the engine is still running, so we had to just shut it off and start back up. But
Oh,
it was a
kind of
service
like
outage.
the DFL and the old guard Minnesota Republican Party leadership right now.
That sounds about right. Yes,
So,
absolutely right.
um, I'm sorry, that was not very nice, was it? You know a little bit of how I feel. You have
Yes.
Don. You have Don Anderson watching. Says
Oh
Nathan for
yeah.
Senate District 9. So
Yes.
you
Thanks,
you have
Don, for showing up.
you have support. If you guys are watching, like, comment, and share. By the way, and if you are not subscribed to my channel, I'm trying to get to 2 grand. I just made 1,000 here almost 2 months ago, and I'm only about 100 shy of 2 grand already. So help TC out while we help. Do we go? Do you go by Nate or do you go by Nathan?
Sure. Yeah, Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan,
My
Nate.
brother's name is Nathan. We all call him Nate. So,
That sounds good. Yeah. I'm easy going.
oh hey, you got Merle
Oh
says hi.
yeah. There's Merle. Yeah, yeah.
Merle
There's
saying
that's the
hi.
Caravan of Patriots folks right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got into
Um,
this whole thing, because of people like that right there. I went up to a Caravan of Patriots meeting expecting to find a candidate to give us a second option to run for state senate in our district, and yeah, they found someone. It ended up being me. So
you got to read that one out loud there, Nate.
oh, we love Nathan. Yeah. All right. That's great.
Hey guys, now come on now. You can ask questions too, but if you ask questions, you have to do at least like one super chat. So
There you go.
because TC
Yeah.
shills for himself. Anyway, um, everybody, I mentioned super chats, and most of the people that watch are like, "What's a super chat?" And I'm like, "Well, there's this thing down below where you can pay money to say hi to me because I'm
Oh,
important people."
wow. That's man, I've never had that happen before. People wanting to pay to have you talk. Well,
Oh,
pretty
well,
nice.
trust me. Once you get elected, they'll probably pay you to shut up. That's
Yeah,
what they.
well, and
So,
those of us coming from the grassroots movement, yeah, they'd probably pay millions to have you shut your mouth.
so you are in a relatively rural part of the state. It's pretty
Yep.
large. You're running in the same circles as Travis Johnson,
Yes. Yes.
but he's running
He's.
at the federal level
Yep.
for the 7th congressional district.
Hmm.
And he stopped in last night when I had Spike on to say hi to Spike because he knows Spike, and he and Spike had spoke at several events together last summer. And he mentioned that at one of your events, you actually invited him in to do some signature collection.
Yeah. 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 Those guys. They. He was in the area, and I told him he can stop on by, sure, if he's interested. And it's I might get myself into trouble with that kind of stuff with people in different groups and different sects, but it's it's free speech, and if people are just trying to collect signatures to get themselves on a ballot, to me that's the American way right there. If you can get support from individuals by a signature, yeah, why not have him come by? He did he talked a little bit, kind of explained his reasoning for foregoing the Republican endorsement and just the sense that he has.
And running ultimately as an independent.
Right. Yep. And going as an independent. Yep. Just and it's funny that he brought up that the Republican Party, they kind of got the way their people selected. They've got their chosen ones, and it's that old guard, the establishment folks. And if they got a chance or an opportunity to make sure that they can keep those people in, they're going to do it, and they're going to push out kind of free thinkers and the true conservatives. So constitutionally minded folks too. It really seems they don't have a lot of time for us.
Well, they can't even abide by their own constitution most of the time, let alone at the state or the federal level. So
Yeah.
let's just be honest. You're running because you do not like the option up there right now.
Yeah. That's I look at I started changing the way that I voted actually right out of the gate. I did not like in 2008 when I first was able to vote for president. I ended up voting with the Constitution Party because I just couldn't bring myself to vote for John McCain. Same thing happened in 2012. I was a Ron Paul delegate in Minnesota to the congressional district, and I just there was no way. I started looking into people and actually trying to inform myself about the people I'm voting for. And before
The
I
heck you
got
say.
What's that?
The heck you say.
Yeah.
Informing yourself about the people that you're voting for.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't have that.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. You're just supposed to go in and look at the R's and D's and just follow right down the party line. It's kind of sad. That's what we've come to. But I've so even before caucus, I'd started looking into the new district and checking out the candidates. And what I've told people a lot is you can tell a lot about an individual and your representatives if you look at the bills that they author, bills that they co-author, and that tells you a lot about what's on their heart, what's on their mind, what they're willing to fight for, what they're willing to push up against, and take a stand for. And I looked
Right.
at that. I looked at Senate District 9, and Bill Engelbritson was retiring. He retired in January, or he announced his retirement, and then I was looking into Mr. Rasmussen, and I was not impressed over the last 2 years. If you haven't, as a Republican or as a true conservative, someone concerned about our constitutional liberties, someone's concerned about medical freedom, I didn't see anything in there pushing against the agenda of basically Walz, Joe Biden, Keith Ellison, nothing like that. And they will tell you there's a lot of rhinos out there that'll tell
There
you
was nothing we could do.
yeah, exactly.
There was
Can't
nothing.
do
There was
anything.
nothing we could do.
We
They did.
voted,
So they
I
literally
voted every
did.
time.
They literally did nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they'll tell you I voted every time against the governor's mandates, or I voted every time against the powers, the governor's powers. And what ends up happening is it just becomes the same thing over and over. And like I've said at a few events and stuff, we need people that are out there pounding the table on this stuff and say we are not supporting any budgets, anything else until we get this rectified. Oh, there they go. And so
that's the gold guard.
that's right.
They're sending the sergeant of arms from last week's convention to come get you. So
That's right. Yep.
it'll take him a while to get up the stairs, but it'll be all right. So
there you go.
So let's. I'll throw this out there right now because I know right now that in your particular congressional district and at the federal level, it's a broad district.
Yep.
But even your Senate district is pretty broad as well.
Yes.
And I've already got a little bit of a reputation up there. Never been to your district, but there's some people up there who don't care for me. So I guarantee you there are some hate watchers at some point watching this. This is an open invitation right now to your opponent. Jordan is his first name, correct? Jordan Rasmussen. This is an open invitation to him right now for two things. One, I'll let you come on and tell your side of the story. 2, I will make this an open platform for the two of you to answer questions from the public across the state of
Oh,
Minnesota,
awesome.
because races like this are not just about your Senate district. It is about the good and the welfare of the entire state of Minnesota.
Yes.
And one of the things that I saw, or didn't see, I should say, something that I failed to observe last week was a large voice representing what now has come to be referred to euphemistically as rocks and cows country in
Yeah.
Minnesota. Everybody that the gubernatorial candidates that got up on the platform last week, and there were some good ones. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple of good ones.
Yep.
I walked away from that convention with a newfound respect for Neil Shaw. I'll tell you that right now. But uh, most of the candidates for governor, even all they're interested in is talking about what they're going to do for the Twin Cities. That
Yeah.
there was, we're gonna we'll bring mining back, and they played off of the rocks and cows comments,
Mhm.
but they didn't talk much about what greater Minnesota is going to benefit from a supposedly conservative swing and a sweep in the state of Minnesota. So these kind of conversations are incredibly important, not just to Senate District 9 or
Yep.
Congressional District 7. These kind of conversations in every little district, no matter where it's at, are important for the entire state, so that we can start to see what the candidates across the state look like, so that we know who to encourage, who to get behind, and what to look for in our own districts.
Oh yeah.
And so, once again, anybody out there in the Minnesota GOP leadership in your district, in CD7 or at the state level Senate district area, who has contact with Jordan, my platform is open for a one-on-one, and I would encourage a two-on-two.
Yeah. For sure.
Um, I'm not going to come out swinging. I'm going to let the candidates do that to each other, because I think it's time for gloves to come off. And my issue is not a beef with most of the candidates. My beef right now is with, as I've already said, old guard,
Yeah.
because I know the old guard stood in your way.
Oh, for sure.
It,
Yeah. There's
it's
definitely.
it's factual. It's not a.
Yep.
It's not a. It clearly, because you've had some experiences campaigning, door knocking already, that told you that there's been some misinformation given out about you.
Yeah. 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 We found. When with the delegate process and after caucus, I didn't get in until March 15th, and that was the day that the chairs, the 5 county chairs, voted on whether or not to have the endorsing convention April 23rd or May 21st, and we actually, because of my entrance into the race, we were ahead 3-2 on that vote, and then there was some comments made, and they actually switched one of the votes and got the lady there to vote the other way and push it up. So I got essentially 5 weeks to mount a campaign and try and win the endorsement. So it ended up going forward either way, and doing a lot of door knocking and trying to meet up and have events, as many as I could, and get out and talk to delegates. But yeah, in that process, I found there was a lot of people, a couple of people that just don't understand what it means to be a delegate. They actually look at they would get phone calls. One specific individual told me that he couldn't remember which specific date it was, but he knew it was a Sunday evening that he'd gotten a phone call from my opponent, and was told that he needed to or was asked if he would be on the would be on the list for him, and he basically said, Jordan, I'm not going to be able to attend that. I won't be able to be that delegate. I won't be able to do that. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. I just need you on the list. And so I don't know specifics on that, but I know that happened.
And to some degree, this is hearsay. I mean, we're not
Right. Yeah.
spreading.
This is what
We're
a
not saying
delegate.
this is particular thing is 100%, but these are anecdotal conversations that you're having, not just once or twice.
Yep. Right. Yep. And I mean, when people made phone calls, just people that didn't understand, like, yeah, apparently I'm Jordan Rasmussen's delegate and I need to show up on such and such date and I need to vote. Nobody's anybody's delegate. You're a representation of the votes, the Republican votes from 2020, depending on the breakdown in the ratio that your county did, and Otter Tail was 90-1. So for every 90 votes in 2020 in the 2020 election that were Republican, they had one delegate, and depending on your precinct or township, you have so many delegates in each of those. So basically, you're a representation of 90 other conservative Republican voters in your precinct or township. You're not Nathan Miller's delegate. You're not Jordan Rasmussen's or anybody's delegate. You are a representation of the 90 friends and neighbors and like-minded thinkers in your precinct. So people just don't really understand that. They get asked questions about, hey, can you come and do this? And they get petitioned by candidates, and people, Minnesota, pretty nice. Yeah, sure, I can do that. And then they show up to these things, and they're really loyal or dedicated a lot of time, and they'll just vote right along with what they were asked or told, and nobody's none the wiser. It doesn't seem to mind. So it's kind of discouraging, but we mounted a quick campaign, and we vote tally at the end on the 23rd was 103 total votes to 170. So percentage wise, though, based on that ratio, it was about 35% to 64% on the first ballot.
What was the compelling factor for you, Nathan, in deciding to challenge Jordan and to not just wait for the endorsement and say, okay, I didn't get the endorsement, so I'm gonna back him, because it's a big fight to take things down to the primary, especially when we have the Minnesota GOP is notorious for, if you do win in the primary, saying, well, you weren't endorsed, so we're not going to back you in the election. I mean, they've done that several times, and in particular, most recently, we've seen that play out with Eric Mortensen, who
I know it's
won, and they, not only that, he won a primary, and they still ran somebody against him. So it was just a weird setup. So you had to have a very compelling reason, because I know from looking at your site, you bring a certain set of biblical ethics to your world philosophy, and not that it's necessarily unbiblical to challenge somebody and go to a primary. That's not my point. But you're motivated by something. You see something in this that makes you say, this is worth the fight. And what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I told a lot of people that I say this a lot, that I want to pass on a freer country to my children than the one that I inherited. And so how do I do that, and how do I just sit idly by and not stand up for the biblical truths that are under attack? I look at the world that we live in and this country that we live in, and honestly, we're a sovereign nation, but if we don't get back to recognizing there's a sovereign God that gave us these truths and these liberties before any government was ever installed, we're going to lose our sovereignty. And we saw that in the last couple of years. I lost my job over the mask mandate in 2019 because there again, I was in charge.
Wait, no, not 2019.
Sorry, 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 20 August
I'm
of
like,
2020.
man, that was way
That
preemptive.
was really
I'm like,
early.
I thought my job, my career fight for my career was bad. You started before all of it. Like,
No,
you
not
just
quite.
walked in
Yeah,
one day in 2019 and said, "I'm not wearing a darn mask," and they're like, "Okay, you're crazy. You're fired." So
yeah, right. No, yeah, wow, it sounded like a prophet, right? No, but they no, that would have been August of 2020. You're right. No, um, I I got into a dispute with HR and our management, and I had 19 guys that reported to me, and I just said, these guys work long and hard, and it's hot. Uh, they've got asbestos, they've got smoke, they've got ash that they've got to fight with and contend with constantly in this industry, and they wear a mask, they wear respirators for that. Now you're going to make them wear one while they're able to actually just breathe. I said it's unacceptable. And I
so
said
walking out of the work environment into a break room,
yeah,
they're now being
exactly.
told ostensibly, leave your respirator on.
Right. Yeah. Basically.
Wow.
And it's just
Literally dealing with
nonsensical.
asbestos, and you're like asbestos will kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we know that. Like,
Yep.
mesothelioma is a thing.
Yes,
It's
it is.
yeah. The other thing, not a thing. So
Yeah. And
I
so,
gotta
yeah,
be. I have to be careful. We don't name the virus on my channel, by the way. We call it the
that's right.
coof because if you
The coof.
name the virus on my channel, I get demonetized. So
Okay. Okay.
don't
So yeah,
demonetize me, Nathan.
when the coof showed up, and we actually, it was August, or no, it would have been July 26th, I believe, when Walz's mandate came down, and he and I called the director, and I told him that, hey, I'm not going to be doing that, and I'm not going to require people to do it either. And he said, no, you will, and we had a disagreement on it, and so for about 3 weeks we went back and forth about it, and eventually it ended up in my termination. But I and that that's a small price to pay, I suppose, if you want to look at it in the general sense of our
It's not though.
freedom.
It's actually really it's really big because my story, I mean, it isn't exactly the same as yours. Mine was related to my activities, not related to my work, because
Oh,
I've gone to great extremes to not mention where I worked before. I have no trouble telling people now that I work for the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office down here in southeast Minnesota for almost
wow.
13 years. And I was out there speaking out against all of these tyrannical edicts and dictums for from March of 2020 on, and uh, stood up for small business owners who were losing everything and speaking out
Yeah,
against
yeah.
prosecuting attorneys and cops who were enforcing these unconstitutional orders. Not They're again never mentioning my work, but they came after me for
Oh,
that. Followed all their rules while I was working,
oh, wow. Okay.
but they came
And they
after me
still
for
came after you.
they still came after me for my private content and
Jeez.
smeared me, and basically accused me of being criminal and a danger to society. So I can relate to what you went through, but yours is even like literally like we're dealing with asbestos. I'm sorry, I keep going back to the asbestos because I'm like, but it's asbestos.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean,
And
asbestos is actually relatively safe as long as the
say
pipes or the insulation isn't broken or
right.
frayed. You've actually got it's actually a really great product outside of that. As soon as it's broken or frayed, you need to do something about it. But yeah, the industry we work in, there's usually asbestos insulation still hanging around in these old plants, and so that was my argument, was that and we've got legitimate occupational safety and health issues that we need to manage here, and we do. And I said, and then I remember one point I pointed outside to a chain link fence, and I told them that hey, when you're wearing a rag on your face that's basically doing the same thing that fence is, keeping mosquitoes off the property. And so that didn't go over very well. And I get that people. It's really, it's kind of like climate change, and it's kind of like a few of these other things. You'll hear sustainability, you hear equity, you hear all this mumbo jumbo about, and it's become a church or a cult that people that basically are a lot of times godless, and they got a God-shaped hole inside of. We all have that, and if it's not filled with the power of the Holy Spirit, you're going to be searching for something. We're searching for identity in this country. We've got an identity crisis, and people fill that with something else, with some other thing to follow, to worship, to put their strive and energy in towards. And you see it. I mean, in my industry, as far as power generation is concerned, that's one of my major things is the energy crisis we're looking at. I don't know if you read Alpha News much at all out of Minnesota, but man, they just put out another. I read a story again about Minnesota, the Midwest Independent System Operator, MISO market, and how we are to expect blackouts this summer because of heat, and we continue to reduce the amount of capacity we have in power generation, and that's all due to.
We just need more wind turbines.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I
More
do
wind
have to
turbines.
put a disclaimer out there for all of my other Reformed, Calvinistic, Baptistic, Presbyterian, and non-affiliated Reformed friends.
There you go.
The opinions of Nathan on the God-shaped hole in people's heart are not necessarily reflected by this Reformed, Calvinistic, bourbon and rum sipping Baptist.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that's all right. We can have that conversation another time. So
I do that because I have a very large audience. When I say very large, for me it's very large, but it comes from like a lot of different perspectives.
yeah,
And I have everything from Christian flat earthers to like way whacked out. I say whacked out in a euphemistically funny way. Like
yeah,
my friends who like they get up and dance during church, and then I have others who are like who are like, even if you're raising your hand to ask a question during Sunday school, you're asking somebody, "Does this look charismatic?" So,
sure, sure. No,
so I try to have fun with these, and most of the time my jokes fall on deaf ears. So,
oh no, that's all right. I've been around lots of different kinds of folks in different churches, so yeah, it's.
I think I have well, you know what? I don't know if his church is in your area, but I can't remember. Okay. I've got a friend, Eric Anderson, who pastors a church up north, and I don't know if he's north on your side or like north on the east side or north on the central side. I can't remember. But I had him on, and we've talked about a little bit about the cultic nature of some of the stuff that's going on with the left. I also had my friend Walter Hudson, who's running for office at the same time that you are. Down in the Twin Cities area. And he and I had our very first conversation when I had him on. We talked about the cultic nature of the left, and it's when you're dealing with things like critical theory, whether it be critical race theory, critical gender theory, critical sexual theory, all that stuff, or even things like you mentioned, the idea of climate change, which the climate changes, folks. We've been doing that since creation. Whether you're an old earther or a young earther, climate changes. But it's how cultic, like you have to be on board with this.
Yes.
And they're the very first people to look at a conservative who happens to be a religious conservative and say, oh, you have to separate your values from running for office. So like, even if you're running for office, before you're even elected, you need to separate your values from that. And if you do get elected, that can't have any bearing on you. And I'm over here going, have you seen the weird worship type things you do around some of this stuff? And so it's encouraging to see that you're noticing that and are willing to point it out. So I asked the question and it led on to some other things, but what's your opponent's from your perspective, what's your
Yeah.
opponent's record look like? Did he do anything for grassroots conservatives? Like, and there again, I won't brook any arguments from people
Yeah.
that, well, they don't have the majority in the Senate, so they can't do anything. Um, oh wait, no, it
In the
was the
House.
Senate we had the majority in. Yeah,
Yes. He was in the House.
he's in the House. Um, the argument being, well, we couldn't do anything. Like, so that doesn't fly with me. What are
Yep.
some of the, like, was there anything he did do, any bills he did sign on to, or any bills that he's like wrote, authored, anything at all
Right.
that would give lie to his credentials, conservative, moderate, not quite moderate, anything at all? What's his voting record been like?
Yeah. I pulled it up early on. I don't remember all the bills. I was just specifically looking for gun bills, for bills against the governor's powers, for bills on anything against mask mandates and so on. I didn't find anything all that compelling. I found that there was. I know he talks about that he's been co-authoring a provisional balloting bill to for voting to clean up our voting in Minnesota, and it's for the same day registration, folks. Basically, a different colored ballot than the ones that everybody else has that's already registered. Um, yeah, I couldn't. I Everything that I looked at was all about money, having to kind of a bringing the bacon back to the district, to his area, kind of a general philosophy is what I saw. And even right now, the bills that I was going through just the other night, looking at what they were voting on, the Hometown Heroes Act. There's another bill on increasing penalties for off road snowmobiling and ATV concerns. A lot of things like this that I continued to find individuals in the House that there's around 5 to 15 House members that are voting nay on a lot of these things, and yet Mr. Rasmussen is on the other side of that majority of the time. He's rarely one of the new House Republican caucus. I don't know if you're familiar with them, TC, but the Munsons, Drazkowski, sorry, some of the more conservative, even Mortensen is definitely on that side of the voting record.
Uncaucused, but voting on those the same way as
Right,
the
yeah,
new
not
House.
the caucus, but just voting along those lines, those more conservative lines. And I don't see.
So you're looking at his voting record, and you're looking at the voting record of other Republicans in this,
Correct.
and he's actually voting in line with the DFL and not the GOP.
Well,
On a lot of issues, not all,
it seems
but
right. Yeah. Well, it's more so those massive bills, those omnibus bills, those other bills when everybody gets together and sings "Kumbaya" on something. That's when he I've noticed he crosses over a lot of the time with those types of things. When if you just go look at a bill, go grab any bill, look at the voting on it, and you take a look. And anytime I see that, oh wow, we had 130, 140 people voting yay on that, and there's only a small fraction that are voting nay. What's going on there? And then I look at those nays to see who they are, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to see again Mortensen, Munson, Lucero, individuals like that I notice are more willing to take a stand against these things. And to me, that tells me the kind of individual that you are. It's that typical, the way the wind blows and shifts. That's where I'm going to go. What's going to get me reelected? How can I be a part of the team and negotiate and work on passing bills? To me, I mean, honestly, I have no problem if we don't pass hardly any bills. It's let's
I
pass
love
the
deadlock.
right one. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
I,
Some deadlock.
let's
That's fine.
let's have deadlock. Like if we could like split the House and the Senate just
Yeah,
perfectly so that nothing got passed ever, like
can't
literally nothing got passed for
it
a
can't
good
get
4
worse then.
years. For a good four
Yeah,
years. It's like it couldn't even get to the governor's desk. I don't care who the governor
yeah,
is at that point. We
yeah.
won.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So
um,
when I go through those things, it's a little disheartening to me to not have coming from this new district is the most conservative district in the state based on voting record, and if we're going to send somebody down there that's whatever going
that's no,
either which
that's
way.
huge. Don't blow that off. The way redistricting worked this go around after the census and everything and all this
Yep.
other all the hubbubaloo. I'm making up words
Yeah.
now. Hullabaloo that went on. And quite frankly, it's probably some of the worst gerrymandering I've seen in my life, and I've been around for a while and been paying attention to socio-political issues for quite some time. It's
Okay.
some of the worst gerrymandering I've ever seen. Just creating out of whole cloth completely new districts that just
Yep.
didn't need to be created. Um, and throwing and if you look where the chaos happened, it's almost always in congressional districts or Senate districts that were traditionally conservative. And what
Sure.
it's done is it has begun to pit Republicans against each other because what that does is
Yep.
it weakens them. And
For sure.
in a name with recognition, then oftentimes who tends to be old guard or rhino steps in and gets the nod because everybody's like, well, what do? We don't even know anybody anymore. And like I used to be in Senate District 31
Yep.
for years. It was Senate District 31. For some reason now Senate District 31 is way up by the cities. It's at the cities.
Yeah.
And people are like, so who's our representative? And it's same representatives, but completely new districts. This kind of stuff causes problems. And so you have concerns with an individual who now has a name recognition going in as an elected representative who now wants to run for Senate. In this conservative district, people are going to look at this and say, we don't have anybody else to talk to or to throw our votes to. I had somebody just ask the question, do you not engage your chat audience? Well, I do if I have people who are asking me questions or have comments that they want to make, GH. So if you have a question, feel free to ask, but I didn't know you were there.
Yeah.
If there's a question
That's
you'd
fair.
like to ask or some pushback you'd like to provide, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
Please.
Sounds great. Well, and along the conservative district thing too. I mean, it's funny you mentioned 31 is what you used to be. We lived east of Zimmerman, Minnesota, by a town called Crown for 5 years out there, and we were 31. That's north of the cities now. So 31A and B, I believe, are north of the cities. And I think you had Mark on. So you had Mark on a week or two ago, and he's now 33, I believe. So he's over in Stillwater. So, yeah.
So GH asked a question, and for some reason it did not pop up in my StreamYard feed. So GH, I don't know if this is directed at me or if this is directed at Nathan or both of us. It says, do you believe that conservatism must contain references to QAnon, 4chan, stolen elections, and that Dems are satanic pedophiles? Like, what? No, I'm literally.
Oh, wow, that's off the. It's in the deep side.
No, there it is. Huh? Now it's finally showed up.
Okay.
No, I don't. In fact,
I would
for my perspective, GH, so you know, you will not find any positive references to QAnon on my channel ever.
Right.
Ever.
Okay. Yeah.
I get in more arguments with alleged conservatives over that garbage.
Sure.
Because I keep getting people sending me messages going, don't worry, Tim Walz has already been arrested and he's at Gitmo awaiting military tribunal and execution.
Yeah.
Like literally every week I get a message like that. Or don't worry, Tim Walz and Biden are going to be arrested next week. I had a guy
Yep.
message me the other day, tell me that Tim Walz has already been arrested, and the guy who's now Tim Walz is actually a body double.
Yeah. I've heard that about Hillary Clinton. I've heard it about a lot of
Yeah.
things.
As far as 4chan, Di wouldn't even know how to find
Yeah.
4chan.
Yeah.
Do I
I don't pay
believe
attention.
stolen election? To be honest with you, if you don't think there were some problems with the election, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Do I think there's anything we can do about it at this point? No, so I don't spend a lot of time talking about it because
Sure.
we can't
Well,
fix
we
it.
can-
Even if you believe, if you're convinced that it was
Yeah.
absolutely a setup from the beginning, and there's still no way to change it.
Sure.
There's absolutely no way to change it. You can't, short of a bloody coup, which, by the way, I
Yeah.
do not endorse.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm not endorsing civil war. Right.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, I would say the stolen election portion. I mean, if you're not, like you're saying, if you're not willing to at least look at information about it, you're kind of completely the other way in the conspiracy theory. In my mind, if you're unwilling to look into it, I don't know if you've seen the 2000 Mules documentary yet, or if you paid attention to anything that True the Vote's up to.
I haven't actually, to be honest with you. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
because just to me, it's like, once again, great. So you think you have proof? Who cares? What are we going to do about it? Everybody's like, we're
Right.
going to wait now. Like it's literally the only way to change it, even if it's 100% true. The only way to change it is literally to arrest people, and
yes.
the only way to arrest any of those people is literally an armed revolution.
Well,
To pit, I mean, that's it. That's like literally so you want all the sheriffs in your state to show up to Washington, D.C. and arrest the president? You go ahead. Just tell me how that's going to work.
I don't know if that's going to work very well. I was thinking more along the lines of, these 2000 Mules, or these individuals that were clearly involved in rampant.
Ilhan Omar's campaign has been proven to have
Right.
done ballot harvesting.
But
until
what
we
I'm
change,
saying is how do you get to the point where you can? It's like a drug cartel. I'm not necessarily. Yeah, the 2000 Mules. You need to get them to roll over, and you need to continue to go up the food chain and get the big fish. So if there'd be a way to continue
Merle
putting
asked
heat
a
on
really
for
good
that,
question.
yeah.
Are you suggesting we just ignore treason? No, Merle, absolutely not. I'm not asking that. What I am asking people to understand is what people want. So I'm going to give an example, Merle, and I don't know if this is going to help, and I think this will fit in well with where you're at with a lot of the voting record stuff as far as your opponent. Where we're at right now is where we were at the beginning of 2020's foray into government edicts. I had a lot of people going, my sheriff is on board with shutting down these orders. My sheriff is on board with ending all of this.
Okay.
I'm encouraging my sheriff to get with some other sheriffs and arrest the governor. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Cool.
Sounds really good.
Yep.
If your sheriff has the kind of cojones.
Yep.
I had a Hispanic friend the other day who told me that they're Hispanic and they can say cojones.
Cojones,
and,
yes.
And therefore it's not a swear word.
Yeah.
I had on another show I co-host. And so if your sheriff has the kind of cojones where he can try and organize that, once again, okay, are you ready for him to take his entire cadre of deputies out of his county, drive up to Ramsey County, go to the Capitol, and march in and get into a gunfight with the state patrol to take the governor into custody? Because that's exactly what it'll come down to.
Yeah.
That's exact. So we do need to address this, but going in and unseating these people short of elections right now, and then I'll let you say your piece, because I really feel like this has come up now. I got two people. I got one side telling me you're all a bunch of kooks, and another side going, how do we address this?
Yeah.
And I'm not the moderate, the play the middle guy. We have to win the elections, which means we have to swing this state red, which means we have to rely on the rocks and cows traditional conservatives.
Yes.
And we have to get out and we have to reach not just the inner cities. We have to reach the inner cities. We have to swing blue counties in the north. We have to swing blue counties in greater Minnesota. We have to swing them. We need to swing red. We need to convince the moderate rhino types that they need to be over here with us voting and not voting with the DFL anymore.
Yes.
We need to stop meeting in the middle. We need to change election laws. And then once we're in power, if you want to use that terminology, once we're in power, then we start going after these people who set this up and made it possible. But anything short of that is, Carol, you said we need to arrest Biden and everyone. Okay, fine. We do not have the strength of numbers to do that right now without it going completely bloody. And I mean bloody.
Oh, yeah.
It will be a war. That is not something that we should be entering into lightly. Could it get there at some point in this country? I think if the left has their way, they will come for us. We've seen that. We've got people from January 6th who maybe shouldn't have been in that building, maybe shouldn't have been breaking windows. But most of them that are sitting there are sitting on misdemeanor trespassing charges, still haven't gotten out of prison. You think that they won't come for you if they think you're violent?
Well, I don't even think a lot of those people, I don't even know if they were actually violent. A lot of them, they're political prisoners, and that's just all it is. Like you say, a trespassing charge, police or Capitol police officers opening the doors and allowing people and waving them in, all that kind of stuff.
Which is undeniable. That's literally, we have video of it.
Yeah, well, and that's what we're getting at. I think that's what the whole election thing is getting at. It's undeniable at this point. If you watch the documentary, if you pay attention, if you look at any of these individual cases, I give a shout out to that sheriff out in Wisconsin that filed charges around when was it? Around Thanksgiving last year against the 5 or 6 of the election committee that he said had committed they'd committed felonies.
That's where it needs to happen.
Sure,
that's
where he's got control.
Yes,
he's got a local. It's in his local area. But
precisely.
So what he claims is he took that and he brought charges against it. He said, well, now he said, I've got to wait to see what the district attorney is going to do because I'm ready to make an arrest, and let's get these people charged and held accountable.
Yes.
So those are the things that we need to do, and we need to be pushing. So when people ask about the stolen election, I absolutely. I mean, to me, that tells you a lot about an individual or about about someone if they don't have an opinion on it and they're trying to be an elected official of yours and they're claiming they're a conservative. I get a little worried when they say, "Oh no, there's nothing to see here. Don't worry. Yeah, all January 6th. Oh, it was the worst day in American history." You hear all that garbage when billions of dollars of damages have been happened during the summer of love and revolution of 2020 and through 2021. It's unacceptable to be on that high horse and then looking at January 6th as if it was something it's such a travesty.
Hey, so GH there again. I don't know you from Adam, so you could be one of those hate watchers I was talking about earlier. I don't know. I don't know how you even found me. But thanks for stopping by the way, because you do drive up my algorithmic views. So as in GH, as you could see, I'm not a moderate by any stretch of the imagination, but there are people who I am friends with who would disagree with me on some of this.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you right now, there were people who deserve to be charged with crimes on January 6th.
Sure.
Breaking windows is a crime.
Sure. Yep.
It's wrong. There are people who were in that building were not guilty of those kind of crimes. They were literally ushered in, and they are being charged with that kind of crime. That's political persecution.
Absolutely.
Period. There are people who have lost their jobs for merely being in Washington, D.C. I'm getting a little hot. There are people who lost their jobs for merely being in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I have a friend who works in the Twin Cities, did nothing wrong. She simply went to the rally, and the city that she works for, a public entity,
oh my gosh,
put her under internal investigation and put her out on administrative leave for being in Washington, D.C. So do not tell me that this doesn't have a political persecution feel to it. You could be a moderate Republican.
Yeah.
Fine. You don't have to like Trump. Fine. Guess what? I didn't vote for Trump the first go around, and I held my nose and voted for him the second time because all of my Trump supporting friends said, oh, he's wonderful. No, he gave us Operation Warp Speed, by the way. He gave us the Defense Initiative Act and enacted that and forced businesses to make products that they weren't equipped to make and told them, you don't have a choice. You have to do this. So that's not a small government guy. There are people sitting in Washington, D.C. who committed no crimes. They walked into a building because they were part of a crowd and they were ushered in, and they have been hounded and hunted down. Ashley Babbitt didn't deserve to die. The cop who shot her had no right to shoot her. He got a goddamn award. Sorry. He got an award for that. Do you know that? Yeah. He got an award. Somebody was charged for murdering the officer who died, who didn't die from anything that was done to him.
Yeah.
They now want to take the Capitol Police, the Washington, D.C. Capitol Police, and give them federal prosecution and investigatory powers now to go out and investigate things that have nothing to do with January 6th. Do we need another federal agency investigating American citizens?
Absolutely not.
You don't think the crap that's being done to school board parents who are out protesting school boards, being called terrorists, and the Department of Homeland Security has labeled them terrorists and said they'll use their full power against them. You don't think that stems from the crap that they pulled on some of those people on January 6th? And once again, my friend in the Twin Cities,
yeah,
almost lost her job for merely being there. I have another friend who did lose his job for being there, and he didn't go anywhere near the building.
Sure.
Because of political pressure that the FBI put out, and then released his name, and Antifa harassed his employer for months on end until they said, we can't do this anymore. So don't tell me it's not political.
Yeah.
Now, you can be okay with all of that, but I know what the political harassment looks like because it was done to me, and I didn't go to Washington, D.C.
Sure. I gotta tell you.
Someone breaks into your home, you shoot them, self-defense. You break into a Capitol building threatening the lives of congressmen, you were upset? Yeah, I'm upset that Ashley Babbitt died. She wasn't threatening anybody. And if someone breaks into my home and I shoot them, I will go to prison for murder because the only way in the state of Minnesota that I can justify shooting someone who breaks into my home is if they present a clear danger and I have made every attempt to flee.
To escape, yes. Yeah, that's
I
exactly
have
right.
to leave my own home.
You have to get out. The prerogative.
I have to get out of my house and abandon it to a burglar. Even if they have a weapon, I have to make every attempt to flee. There is no castle doctrine in the state of Minnesota. There is no stand your ground law in the state of Minnesota. And those people in that chamber had an escape route. And there were cops behind Ashley Babbitt who could have pulled her down. That cop shot without any evidence that Ashley was a physical threat to any member of that house. Any. You can come on here and comment, but do not make those comments and think that I'm not going to push back. Once again, I'm not a Trump bot.
Sure. You know,
Sorry, this is supposed to be about you, Nathan.
No, that's all right. That's all right. It's, you know, it's a heavy thing.
You don't get to shoot somebody just because you think they might be a threat. That's not how it works. That's
you've had police training.
Law enforcement.
Yeah, you've had police training, haven't you? You were a deputy.
I worked in the corrections end. Same.
Oh,
but
okay.
I still couldn't just pull a taser or pepper spray on somebody and go, I don't like you. You look like you might be up to something. There again, then everybody deserved to be shot for being there. Are you kidding? Right. Oh my gosh. I'm clipping this out. This is going to be on my Rumble channel. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Just being there? Then guess what? I got news for you. George Floyd deserved what happened to him.
There's that.
How's that?
There's that.
You want to be a moderate? George Floyd deserved what he got. Go ahead and clip that out. If that's the argument you're going to make. Okay. Whew, okay. Nathan, this is about you. I'm so.
Oh no, it's all right. No, it's about everybody. It's about all of us. I mean, if that's the case,
this is why electing conservatives matters.
For sure. for sure. Well, you mentioned a few things there. You mentioned the Department of, well, we've got now the department that they're trying to create the disinformation board again.
Oh no,
yet
they
again.
backed
So
off on that because the
I
person
saw they
retired.
pumped the brakes.
Yeah, they
Yes.
pumped the brakes. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of this stuff, again, it stems from, if you look back in history, just not that far, the National Defense Authorization Act from Obama, and you go back even to the Patriot Act from George W. Bush. There's a lot of things there. I remember hearing that they were starting to train in early 2000s after 9/11, that they were starting to train people to look at domestic terrorism as people that look and believe what the founding fathers believed, and they stood by that. So those kinds of things are, it's shocking, and it's really sad that that's where we're at right now in this country. I think we need to get back to those truths and stop with the political grandstanding. I mean, it's a sad deal. I'll tell you something else too. I mean, I was present. I was present on January 6th. I was there. I saw it.
No, you
I
should
saw
be
what
arrested.
happened. What's that? Well,
You
yeah,
should be
apparently I should be arrested. But I'm also born on January 6th, so I kind of had to go. That's my birthday. So now I need
So
to
that
be
was your
doubly
birthday
arrested.
to yourself.
What's that?
Yeah, that was your birthday present to yourself.
There you go. Right. I wanted to see what's going on. And something that I want to point out though is that where I was on the Capitol steps. I didn't go inside. I saw what was going on. I talked to Capitol Police while I was there that day. Yeah, I saw a few people cracking windows, and yeah, sure, that's actually a crime, right? You're damaging public property. So I get that for sure.
GH's credentials on being an expert on this have just gone drastically downhill because
GH is he got you tilted or what?
No, I'm starting to yeah, so let me get this straight. It's okay for us to accuse people who just walked into the building of being insurrectionists and treasonous
Yep.
people who deserve to be put on trial.
Yeah.
But people who disagreed with Pence aren't allowed to call out Pence and call it treason. I'm not minimizing January 6th. Stop that.
Right.
Stop saying I'm minimizing it. It was a bad day. People died for no reason. Absolutely died for no reason. Ashley Babbitt shouldn't have died, and the officer who died, who was there, shouldn't have died.
Well, what about the one that was beaten as well?
It was a bad day, but not everybody that was there was a horrible criminal. You broke windows, you should go to jail. But it wasn't an insurrection. That many people there, if that was a genuine move at insurrection, there weren't enough Capitol cops to stop them from doing what they did.
Oh, for surely not. And okay, so what I would say then, I'd contest then, is that if they broke a window on a public building, sure, that's fine. Well, same with a private building. What happened in following during George Floyd riots? All of those people that broke a window then should be charged the exact same as the people that broke a window in.
Well, that's and I get what you're saying, but let's that's crime. And
yeah,
they should be
crime
charged.
is crime, is it not?
But just because it happened, and this is where it's similar.
Yeah.
Just because it happened at a state facility.
Yep.
The state, not talking about the state of Minnesota, doesn't make it more severe. There has to be a certain thought process and plan for something to be an insurrection. You don't get to just say, "Oh, they were there and it disrupted, so therefore it is insurrection." Were there people there who wanted to stop the process? I agree. And when you can find those people and can give me evidentiary facts that you could prove that they were complicit in trying to plot the overthrow, then we'll have a conversation. But there were just some idiots there who got wrapped up in the moment. That's not insurrection.
That's not insurrection. Exactly. There's got to be conspiracy. You have to have conspiracy involved. You have to have planning
to be guilty of insurrection.
You have to show.
And insurrection doesn't happen like just haphazardly. It's like, hey, walking down the street and go, "Hey, you know what we should do today? Let's have an insurrection."
Yeah, right.
That sounds great. And then you break into the Capitol building and have an insurrection. That's not how it happens. Military coups don't happen on the spur of a moment.
You know,
And treason is a massive charge, and it's a massive allegation to level at anybody. And so while I
sure.
don't necessarily think it was wise of people to say that Pence deserved to be charged with or are accused of treason, to
Right.
then turn around and say that they shouldn't have called him treasonous, but everybody else is treasonous or an insurrectionist, is you're painting with a different brush way too broadly on one side.
I mean, I got to admit the things that we saw there, people, there were clearly bad actors in the crowd. And as more and more has come out, there's obviously the FBI had a presence there too, that they were firing things up and pushing people. The media was sensationalizing just about everything they could. I had a couple friends that were with, and they were up in the back. They'd gone to the bathroom.
Derailed.
They came
I'm
out.
so sorry. I'm a horrible
What's
host.
that?
This derailed. I'm a horrible host.
They came out of the bathroom and they saw a media member with the cameraman, and they watched him, and he did a take, and here we are, the Capitol insurrection, blah 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 blah, and turned, stopped, paused, came back around, looked at the camera, said, no, that wasn't. They heard him say that wasn't scary enough. I got to retake it. So they're trying to fluff things up, make it worse than it is. Things. The people that I was there with, this will never make the news, but one of the guys there, he said, "Hey, this is our capital. It's technically ours. It's we the people's." We went back to the mall. We met back at the Washington Mall, and we cleaned out a whole side of the mall that was, there's just litter and stuff left out. And so we went and picked up like the whole. No, absolutely not. And we saw a backpack that was left behind. We went and told an officer that was standing, said, "Hey, there's a backpack sitting right there. I don't know." And the cop basically just, "Yeah, don't worry about that. You don't got to worry about that." Okay, well, there were a lot of things flying around.
Let's deal with the reality too, that I have no doubt that there were some people there planning some bad stuff. No doubt in my mind. There are radicals in every political movement. The left is notorious for it. The left are the most notorious for underground violent movements. Absolutely.
Well, and I mean, what's been going on in Portland for what 200, 300 days?
But since George Floyd died, literally every day.
Right.
Yeah. The left is notorious for it. But
those were federal buildings as well.
Federal buildings, yes. Nobody's charging anybody. Once in a while, somebody gets charged. But let's deal with something here. The FBI has, subsequent to January 6th, been proven, not speculated, it has been proven that the FBI has, without fail, without any doubt, planted most of the people as FBI agents undercover to stir up the trouble. And in the case of the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot,
man, what an abomination!
Every single one of the subjects being prosecuted, I can't say that without doubt, but I know that several have now been exonerated. The charges were dismissed, and the FBI had their butts handed to them by the courts, saying, "You caused this." Well, so I'm supposed to.
Wasn't there like six? I think there were 6 guys that were involved in that.
There were 2 guys in the vehicle that were 13 civilians.
Agents or whatever the number was. It was ridiculous.
There were 2 guys in the one vehicle that were actually just like wackos. The rest of them were all FBI agents who provided the bomb material, the guns, all of the the zip ties, the planning, the maps, the money, the vehicles, and they arrested these guys and then gave those guys immunity because it was their job.
Yeah, it's insane. It's total insanity.
No, GH, I didn't say it was okay for the right. What I'm saying is that to paint every single person that was there as an insurrectionist is not legitimate. I will debate you on this philosophically, morally, and ethically all day long. I've never minimized what happened. People died. That's bad. That's bad. But it was not a planned insurrection by some powerful military force in the right-wing conspiracy movement to take over the United States government. And if that's the case, then we have to look at all of the actual proven voter fraud that happened all over and say that's just as much treasonous. And now we're back to supporting Merle and Carol, who want to see Biden arrested. This is why we have
Right.
to find middle ground on this, and we have to address these things. People are pissed off. They want their
Absolutely.
country back. We don't want violence. We don't want
Well,
violence. I don't want violence.
without-
I don't want to do violence to my neighbor. I want my country. I want my republic, not a democracy, by the way.
Amen.
This is
The
not a
republic,
democracy.
the constitutional
This is a
republic.
a constitutional republic. I want my republic back. The republic that I swore an oath to, not once in the military, but numerous times as I served in the law enforcement world.
Sure. Yeah.
I had my constitutional rights tread on. I want it back. And I want it back, and I want people like Nathan elected who are going to stand up to people on the moderate side of republicanism who ultimately end up not being moderates. They end up being tacit leftists because they do everything they can to compromise with the left in Minnesota DFL.
We see what's going on right
Which
now
is
with
your
our
opponent.
surplus. Yes.
Right.
What's going on with our surplus right now? There's another perfectly good example of that. Is how many Jeremy Miller is in the smoke-filled room right now, trying to hash something out with Melissa Hortman, Walls, and Flanagan. And this isn't even it's not even a budgetary year. We don't need to spend this money. We could send it back, but here we are. They're trying to, and they're going to be Democrat, a Democrat Christmas list is what it's going to come down to. Education, Department of Health and Human Services. I'll tell you something. I don't know if you remember. Did you ever do any talking or meet up with Larvita McFarquhar down there in
I was
south
one of the
of?
first people. I was one of the first people to interview Larvita. I just had her on my Saturday sit rep last week.
Great. I went the day she opened. I took a few people. We went down there. My wife, a bunch of us went down there, and she was the first one to open in the state. But you've got Gestapo-like agencies in the Health and Human Services, people that are willing to do whatever it takes to stifle individuals running their business, and that was Jan Malcolm in my mind. Gazelka and the whole Republican Party not willing to take on and fire Jan Malcolm is disgusting to me. That's where we were in 2020, and here. They could have done it, and they refused to. Those are the kinds of things that show me that there's too much buddy-buddy. There's too much fit-in politics. When you get a letter, and this is something that I've been doing too, is I haven't been taking endorsements. I've been looking for the endorsement of the people. And I get letters and whatnot of people wanting you to fill out a questionnaire and whatnot. But really, it's endorsements end up becoming, those hooks that get put into people when they get elected. And then eventually you find yourself getting lobbyists and other entities that are trying to get you to go a certain way. Hey, remember, guy, we endorsed you. We helped you. You got to help us now. That's the kind of things that are wrong with politics. And to me, I continue to say, I am not a politician. I am looking to be a statesman. I'm looking to be a representation of the people. And when we've talked a little bit about the identity thing as well in this country, I
am listening to you. Carol sent me a message.
No, that's all right. Yeah,
Carol sent me a message and told me I needed to let you talk more. I was fired up.
That's all right.
Thank you, Carol. I love you.
There's I
haven't done a TC rant for a while, so.
That's good. Well, I'm glad to have been a part of it.
I bet you are. You're like, there goes my election chance.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. If people are that sensitive, well, they're probably going to
No, Carol's not being sensitive. Carol's telling me to not
okay.
so verbose and let you give your opinion more. So that's why I backed off. So
sure. No worries.
Thank you,
I'm just
Carol.
saying, with the identity issue going on in this country, and people are, I honestly think the people that go to these capitals, that these politicians, people that have made a career out of it, that's how they literally identify. They get their self-worth out of being a politician, out of having won the popularity contest. And it's kind of appalling and it's sad in my mind that that's where we are, even as adults, that we allow that kind of power or that kind of popularity to affect how we think. If we're not electing people with strong conviction to stand and push back on things, you're going to just get pushed around by the political winds of change. I tell
I
people
want you to
all the time.
respond to this because you're the person running for office, and
Sure.
so basically the question, not the question, but the statement is the problem. If conservatives keep leaning on the stolen election stuff, good luck in 2024. Is that your platform? Is that the sole purpose of your platform? And
Mine?
and yeah,
No,
no,
absolutely not.
right.
I mean, it's
So let me ask it from this perspective.
sure.
Without looking back at 2020 and whether or not it was stolen, and
Yep.
and having to deal with conspiracies on both sides,
Sure.
because the left has their own about it and the right has their own about it. You do believe something needs to change, right? When it comes to
Oh,
how we
yeah,
handle
yeah.
elections in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
What's your answer to that? Should we be requiring photo ID?
Yeah, photo ID needs to happen. I think I would support a bill or be willing to write one that's basically making a voting place an internet-free zone. I've been an election judge before, and I think that as election judges, we need to take the responsibility pretty seriously. We need to look at the end of the night when that ticket gets printed out. You should take a picture of it. Take a picture of that ticket that balances against your signatures, so that way when Steve Simon or whoever, hopefully our new Secretary of State, puts out those numbers in the middle of the night, that it matches what you and all the other election judges saw and verified together, both Republican, both Democrat, both and independents, all.
But does this not ultimately come back to two things? One, no more electronic ballots.
Sure. Yes.
Two, everybody presents a legitimate, certifiable, government issued, state issued ID.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's
Everyone.
there's
no excuses.
Everyone. Yeah. There's I believe this weekend aren't the Democrats are requiring a vaccine card, a mask, and an ID in order to come in, and a photo ID in order to come in and register at their convention.
To take part in the convention. Yep.
Yes. So
that's racist.
Yes. Yeah. Based on their logic, it absolutely is. It's sad that, again, that's where we're at, but we can overcome that. I mean, you get the right people elected, and they're going to be pushing back against these things. And another thing that people don't talk about is the ERIC system that Minnesota is a part of. The the election registration. I forget the other two in the acronym, but they basically the ERIC system is funded and founded by George Soros, and he has 30 different states that are involved in this. They're supposed to be talking to one another and letting people know it's a way to purge out the voter rolls, but they never actually get purged completely, because a swollen voter roll means we've got abilities to change elections. So
this is why I would only respond to super chats, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get. I'm pent up. You were saying the swollen voter rolls.
Yep. Right. And so if we can
they never get purged, so they just continue to swell.
They just continue to swell, yeah. And they're supposed to be talking to, like, Illinois or whatever other states are involved in this, that hey, TC has left our state, and now he's registered in your state. All right, we're going to take him off a roll. But that never actually happens. That's what's been going on for years. And
I've voted dead in Chicago several times already.
That's there. Yeah, well, there's that. I just spoke to a gentleman, a truck driver back up in Otter Tail County, and he actually said, I could have actually voted 3 times, Nathan. I was my wife and I went and voted, and we also found two ballots for each of us. We had 4 ballots for each of us for both of us total in our mailbox, and those ballots, I think they eventually just threw them away. But to me, it's rather obvious that there was an attempt to, and again, if you have the voter roll swollen and no requirement, it's like going into the polling place and saying, yeah, you can just walk in. You don't even need to sign your name. That's basically what this is when you open a mail-in ballot and it's the outside has your name on it, but then the ballot inside of that is completely unmarked and there's no way to identify it. Well, of course anybody can, and our voter roll stays swollen. Well, then we can say, hey, we have 5 million people in this state that can vote, and our voter roll shows we're at 4.8 when actual registered ID carrying human beings that are still alive and breathing is
show up
maybe
to the
3
polling
million.
place.
What's that? Yeah,
And then they
we
show
need
up
to
to
have
the polling
single
place.
day vote. Single day vote. If you want an absentee ballot, you go and you stop in at your local government center or at the courthouse, and you go 2 weeks in advance. You can vote. And if it's not that important to you, then you shouldn't vote. Or sorry, not shouldn't. You should make it more of a requirement in your own. Check yourself and say, hey, it matters to me. The direction of my country matters to me. I got to get to the polling place. Again, a lot of this comes down to individual responsibility. You want individual liberty? Take the individual responsibility to get to the polling place, show your ID, and sign up and go in.
The only people who should not be required to show up to the polling place to vote on election day are military veterans.
Sure.
Or not veterans,
Yeah.
but deployed military personnel. Deployed military
yes,
personnel.
yeah,
So, like,
absolutely.
if I'm stationed in North Carolina and I'm
Yep.
a voter in Minnesota, I should not be required to show up. But
Correct.
that's pretty much there should be no more absentee voting. There should be no more mail-in voting.
No.
And you want to talk
No
about
more
voter suppression.
mail-in. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about voter suppression because the left does this all the time. It's always the topic. Voter suppression.
Yes. It's disgusting.
You know what? I just want to move on from the election thing because I'm the cognitive dissonance that exists out there on some of these issues. You are running to represent your district. Go ahead. You wanted to bring something up?
I just wanted to bring up one other thing really quick. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you had Mark on, and he, like I said a couple weeks ago, we didn't get through that, but he, it's amazing to me the double standard of hypocrisy within our party and within our politics that he goes and wins his endorsement, and then they're going to run somebody against him. Well, when it comes to me, I only had 5 weeks, but people get all bent out of shape because how dare I continue to run to a primary against an endorsed candidate? Well, shoot, and look at Mark. I mean, it's so crazy to me. They told him
they're not going to support him.
Yeah, they're not going to support him. He's the endorsed candidate. They're not going to support him. Meanwhile, and then they're going to run a primary candidate against him on top of it. So then when people such as myself who only had 5 weeks and we're saying, well, we didn't really get a fair shake, we're going to keep going. That to me, it's just such a double standard. They should either stick with it on their endorsed candidate and then poo-poo all of those of us. Sure, you can poo-poo us. That's fine if you don't feel that you're getting fair representation. And my 5 week run, it seems kind of crazy to me that he won it and they're going to run someone, and now in other situations, well, Nathan, you're supposed to be bowing out here because you're not the endorsed candidate. Yeah, give me a break.
And I mean, that goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier too, is just the hypocrisy within the Republican Party, the old guard, moderate, play the middle, compromise with the left, constantly will put out these, you've got to abide by the endorsement. You got to abide by the endorsement. You got to abide. I'm like, it's constant, but they themselves will not do it. And they do is they pick candidates that they think are easy targets to not support.
Sure.
So they don't like Mortensen, so they run people against him.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do the same thing with Mark. Like, what's Mark's problem? Why? Like, literally, this guy came out of nowhere. He's not. I mean, he gets he. You think I get fired up? You should have seen his speech on the campaign platform last week when he went up to endorse
Okay.
Murphy. Whoo! I was standing next to
He
a
got
guy
after
running
it,
for
huh?
office. He goes, "This guy." He goes, "Boy, this guy really needs to engage with a little bit more passion." Um, but I mean, that's part of this is that they that's what they're scared of. They do not like the conservative resurgence, and they literally believe
For
that you
sure.
can't win as a conservative. And that's Bull.
Yeah, to the point.
That's
I
one of
mean,
the reasons why he's not going for an endorsement per se, and he's running as an independent because he's going to run on some really strong principles, which is exactly what you're doing. What sets you apart from uh, Mr. Rasmussen? What is
Mr.
really
Rasmussen.
what is really going to make you, not what he's doing wrong, but what's going to
Right.
make
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
stand out?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm much more, again, the conviction portion of it, the fact that, I mean, I'm a school voucher guy for sure. I'm a constitutional carry guy. I carry open 90% of the time already. Uh, and I know that a lot of those talking points get batted around, but I'm a non. I know he hasn't been claims he hasn't been voting for stimulus and whatnot, or sorry, omnibus bills, but uh, I strongly am opposed to omnibus bills as well. I feel like my biggest difference is that there's there's a difference between intelligence or smarts and then wisdom, and wisdom is gained through experience, and it's also something that you learn. What do they say? Wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others and not having to commit them yourself. uh, I don't need to have been a Democrat in order to realize that those policies are not good, or believe that socialism may be the way and have to go to Cuba in order to realize that, oh, hey, it doesn't work out. These truths, self-evident truths, have been planted on my heart and on my conscience for my entire life, basically, and I'm willing to stand up. I mean, I've got kids, I've got a family, and we've got a good life. It's been trampled on here in the last couple of years, obviously, with what's been going on. But we need regular people to get involved is what needs to happen. And I feel I am a great representation of the people out there. We own 40 acres. We got the farm going. We got livestock. I bring that common sense approach to things. I'm not there to make a career out of this. Again, that's the difference I feel between a politician and a statesman. I'm not looking if I'm a term limits guy too. I have no problem if we in the state wanted to have term limits. I would be on board for that. Oh, there they are. There's my biggest supporters right there. Yes, sir. It's
What,
the
Carol
whole
and
family
Merle show up
there.
somewhere? I don't.
What's that?
Oh, you mean your wife and kids? Okay, I'm sorry.
The wife and kids right there. Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah. So these are values I feel, and I think that's something that my opponent will not address is the identity crisis. This whole that what's going on, the over sexualization of our children in schools. I know that prior question by an individual was something about the satanic sexual whatever deviance and whatnot going on. I don't know if you've seen that story on what is it, 135 arrests so far in this country of teachers and teachers' aides this year alone for sexual misconduct with students. You cannot sit there and tell me that correlation doesn't have something to do with what we have been teaching at younger and younger ages and attempting to make it education, when in reality it's indoctrination. We all know
you
this,
you
and
don't
that's
have
why
to
these
go
school
down.
board members are getting hammered by parents. Parents are realizing, holy cow, here I've been trusting the government and trusting these so-called teachers to help raise my children, basically, and in reality they're grooming them. So I'm not
And you
saying
don't
that it's
have to go
necessarily
down a
a satanic cult,
conspiratorial. You don't have to
What's
go
that?
down a conspiratorial. You don't have to go down a
No,
conspiratorial road and
no,
say,
you
"Oh,
don't
this
at
is
all. You're right, and
satanic."
that's
I
what I'm
don't.
saying is that it's not a conspiracy to say, well, look at here. We've had
Let's
this many. Yeah, it's nearly one a day so far in 2022,
let's think
and
about that. If 135 cops were all charged with criminal sexual conduct
oh my goodness,
in the first 5 months, the cries for defund the police would go from defund the
oh
police to kill all cops, and
yeah,
but yet we've got teachers out there like literally hypersexualizing children. I don't have to
yes,
call that a
and there's no
conspiracy. It's literally all over the TV, and it's being
yes,
praised and applauded. I don't think it's got like I'm. Yes, there's evil in the world. It's just a
yes,
sickness. It's literally
yeah,
it's a I don't care what your socio-political religious perspectives are. It's an illness, and it has to stop. The school has no
yeah.
business teaching kids that, and no school that does teach the kids that should be getting a dime of taxpayer dollars. Period.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. I know it's, and if you look at people going saying that, oh, well, that's and some of it. I mean, I'm not trying to blame parents, but we as adults need to be all right as well with telling our children, having to talk with our children at an early age, and being willing to get involved with that. You want to be, as a parent, you want to be the first person having that discussion with your children. You don't want to be allowing the state in the form of teachers or teachers unions uh, showing and explaining this to them. And there's no other way to say it, but I mean, this kind of education, if you want to call it that, to me, it's grooming. You're grooming children, and it ends up and it shows up in these arrests. It shows up in what's been happening. Where we need to be much more vigilant. And then when we are more vigilant and people are willing to attend these meetings, they get labeled as terrorists. It's insanity. So, to me, that's why we have to have the voucher system in our state. I mean, if there's imagine if every child, if my three children, they get a $10,000 voucher to go to school, and you can pick, there's Hillsdale College, which is now doing K through 12 education in certain areas of this, not in Minnesota yet, but in certain areas of the country. There's private school. There's charter school. There's all these other options that are out there. People would be more than willing to do that. To me, that's your tax dollars actually at work. And granted, I kind of come from the Ron Paul and the Fed ideology that we really
There
don't
should be
need.
no federal Department of Education. So
Exactly. We don't need that. That's absolutely right. We don't need that. We don't. If you do the tax code the right way and you eliminate, we eliminate income tax. I mean, look at the Northwest ordinance when it comes to even property tax. There really shouldn't be any property tax. There's things like this that need to be really considered and debated. And instead
but what you just said makes you a radical. You realize that, right? That moves you out of the camp of that. What you just said moves you out of the camp of a regular guy into a radical. There are people in the Republican Party who would say what you just said is radical, and you cannot hold office. That you're dangerous. Yeah, and I know that you know
because of tax or because of ending the Fed. Which one?
Yes. Here's one, because your buddy Travis is watching. Bull is watching. Here's one, because I know he knows this. Not just end the Fed, but here's one. Let's do away with the Federal Reserve.
Oh man, 1930. Yes.
Get the states to tell the feds to end the Federal Reserve, and it's got to happen at the state level. There are people in the Republican Party who would beat you to death over that.
For sure. Well, yeah, because they've been patting themselves with that for years and years and years. And I mean, even you look back at the income tax, what was it? And I don't remember if it was 1913 as well when they decided to make that law. But they were at one time they were going to have I think it was a 5 or 10% cap on it, but they didn't believe that no Congress or no
would ever extend it.
Right-minded statesman, no right-minded statesman would ever bring it above 3 or 4, and so they just left it open-ended.
Right.
But those are absolutely the kinds of things that people need to get the, for lack of a better term, the big sow of government. We need to start getting people off of her teats. While all the little piglets are suckling away at it, and we just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And again, we got 9 billion, technically 12 if you include the rainy day fund, and then we're gonna hand that over to more education, more health and human services, and all of those of us that individuals, hardworking Minnesotans across the state.
We can buy a
end
lot
up
of refrigerated vegetable buildings for that.
Yeah, no kidding. It's
So see, and this is I'm doing my level best to ignore the chat now because I engaged.
Okay.
I engaged earlier.
Have we triggered? Have we triggered a specific group?
We're just gonna let it go. We're gonna let it go.
Okay.
Because once again, I'm very much appreciate Carol reminding me to let you talk because I did get fired up, and I apologize for taking up your time. But these are the things. This is why I'm so tired of the Jen Carnahan style Republican Party in the state of Minnesota. They all want her back. I mean, the leadership wants her back. The only reason they got rid of her is because the base got mad. But this is what we're dealing with. This is why when you do go and win the primary, if it happens, or when it happens, they're not going to support you.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, I know. We're pretty much. I mean, this is truly a grassroots a move, and you'll hear that term get thrown around so much. But I mean, you're looking at dare I even call myself my campaign manager because I have so many other people assisting and helping and working on things. It's what the establishment, doesn't matter either side of the establishment, absolutely fear. The uniparty fear individuals such as myself, individuals that support me, that are now have been activated, and it's their own fault. Their continued lay down, and again, I'm going to say it again, the fit in politics. Oh yeah, I mean, one of the letters that I received as a delegate was about from a local politician, was that, oh yeah, you got to, Jordan's our guy. He's going to fit in really well down here. And to me, that right there, he did me the biggest and the greatest help he could by saying that he's going to fit in. Is that really what we want right now? Do masks and vaccine mandates and government powers, does that fit with your lifestyle, with your business model? How has that been working for the last 2 years for people? And by the way, I don't know if you've been paying attention, TC, but have you been noticing that we're getting closer to this election, and I've been hearing rumors of spikes again, of different variants. The Omicron is flaring up in different counties. And we also have...
We don't mention anything about it by name because they literally will pull my video down.
Oh, okay. So I can't say...
We talk about variances of the COOF.
A variance of the COOF. All right, there you go. The COOF variants, and what about the monkey one now? Is that
monkeypox is still safe?
Okay, we can still say that one. Yeah. But we're gonna have these issues arise because what do we have to do? Yeah. We have to validate and figure out a way to have people pull just enough people to say, hey, we need mail-in ballots. We need this. We need that. We need to make sure that everybody that shows up is masked and vaccinated and everything else. And it's a war to stifle conservatives and grassroots people that they know for a fact aren't going to go along with that stuff.
Would you be willing to, when you win, let's say you go in, you win, you're elected, you take office in 2023.
Yep.
Would you be willing to ban with other grassroots conservatives to start to find a way to undo the current legislation that's written that grants any governor executive powers like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Not that they should never have executive powers, but the statute that exists now.
Yep.
Redo it.
Absolutely.
Make it more difficult. And I'm not going to try and figure out how it should be worded now, but to make it more difficult, to have more oversight, and to strip away the power, because one of the statutes that goes with it is the power of the Department of Health to order people to be literally arrested and detained without probable cause, merely for refusing treatment and testing. That you have the
Yep.
right to do it, but you can still be detained. It's in the statutes. Does that stuff need to go?
Absolutely. That's to me, and I'm hoping that we've got a few of us that are on the same page as that and are willing to day one start working on stuff like that and start rolling that back, get it out of there. I'll tell you my opinion on governor's powers or emergency powers. The only thing that I can think of is on the off chance, it's Friday evening and the legislature's gone home or they're not available, and he needs to call in the National Guard because violence has broken out. That's about.
No, wait, that would never happen.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yep.
He wouldn't need it for that, right? What the world?
Well, he would have to give his daughter some time to get caught up so she could tweet out all their locations and deployment points first.
There you go. Right. That's safe. That's
Which
safe.
is, by the way, not a conspiracy. Literally happened.
Actually, wow, insane. But but if we have, and you got until the legislature can be called and can show up on Monday or whatever emergency we got to show up for, and make the vote. Vote whether or not to continue it or to end it. And I mean, those are the kinds of things in my mind that again, it's commonsensical. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get all the legislature together on a Friday night if there's a riot breaking out. So governor needs to be able to say, hey, but not shut down businesses over a weekend or not start rounding up people with Jan Malcolm and all her cohorts.
And let's be fair, nobody was rounded up.
Right.
That.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter remains that they actually still, even though they didn't do it, they had the authority in Minnesota state statute to do it.
They could.
And people go, yeah, but it's the law. Not every law is right.
Is good law or right. Yeah. Or dare we say, is it true justice? Right. I mean, how much of this is actual justice if it's the law? The law should be for truth and justice and not social justice and your reality. So it definitely needs to be taken a hard look at and dismantled. And again, if we can vote on one bill at a time and actually get people to say, hey, like the Constitution says, our state and our federal one bill at a time. Let's take those things as they go. And I mean, I spoke with a legislator down there, and we know who he is, but and I've asked him about that, about how far away are we from being able to just vote one bill at a time, not with this omnibus garbage. And he basically said that, it's said we're not that far away. He said, I think if we get 6-7 people in each house, the House and the Senate, we'd be in good shape. And I think that this year is the year we have the opportunity to do that and clean government up. Because what's happening? Look at it. We're coming down to the end of the session, and again, it's this we got to package everything together and ram it through, and it's disgusting. And I think we need to stop enabling that by sending the same kinds of people to our capitals.
Well, Lacey Johnson was said a couple of things that fired up some people last week, but one of the things that he said that people need to pay attention to, because it's very true, is that the Republican Party is notorious for doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah. Insanity,
and of course,
basically.
in the definite, I mean, it's not a true definition of insanity, but the end goal is ultimately what he was saying is it's insane to keep putting the same people or the same types of people into positions of elected servants positions. I do not call anybody a leader or an official. They're all servants.
That's right.
You will never hear me refer to them as servant or as official or leader. These elected servants and appointed servants into these positions. We keep doing it. We keep putting the same people in over and over and over again. And we keep wondering why our state keeps moving further and further to the left. We have to ask ourselves this. The detractor in the chat can say what they want. They can be demeaning, all they want. But why has our state gone so far off the rails? I mean, what happened to the state? Like literally, it used to be one of the greatest states to live in. It's now people are like, I'm out. I'm done. We've got businesses fleeing the state of Minnesota, fleeing.
Absolutely.
And everybody
Well,
picks on Christy Nome. But guess what? Guess what's happening in Sioux Falls? Guess what's happening across the border in North Dakota, Iowa? Like,
yeah.
like people are leaving Minnesota to go to Wisconsin to do business. Are you kidding me?
Man.
That is nuts. But it's literally we have to ask ourselves as conservatives, as traditionalist libertarians that are out there.
Yeah.
How is this happening, and what are we going to do to change it? Because the moderate approach of get along to go along hasn't been working.
And there's been a lot of people. Sorry, cut in there.
No, don't apologize.
There's been a lot of people that have asked that same thing. Why has this gone off the rails so fast? And I mean, obviously I hate to keep going back to the last 2 years, but it's been a systematic tearing down and chipping away at our constitutional liberties. And we keep looking at people like the Ron Paul conservatives back in 2012. I remember trying to talk to people about him. And
he's a weirdo. He's
never going to get. And literally the only thing they could mention that they didn't like is like, well, he's kind of an isolationist. He doesn't want to have, he's afraid about, sticking his neck out or getting out and then get involved in war or whatnot. And I said, really, is that really what we care about? And I know that's more than just a state issue, but it involves all of us. I mean, that bill they just passed was what, $480 per U.S. household that we all added to the debt again to $40 billion. And there's another great example. Take a look at who voted for that in Minnesota. Did you see which of our congressmen and women voted for that?
Go ahead.
Should I say it?
No, go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of them. The Republicans and the Democrats all voted for it. There was 57 that did not vote for that. In out of the 435, 434 if you
the entire Minnesota delegation.
Yep, exactly. Though again,
voted to send $40 billion
with a B, yes,
$1 billion in aid to another country. We can't even get formula to people in our own country right now.
Or remember the scoffing at $5 billion for our southern border? Do you remember that too? Oh man, that was a travesty to think we were going to spend.
No, there's
$5 billion
formula
on
at the
that.
southern border. So
what's that?
There's formula at the southern.
Yeah,
border.
right. There's formula down there, but not a wall. And then how about our gas prices are out of control. What about finishing that pipeline? There's so many things that we could be doing, and I know that's a private entity, but we could be rolling back regulation.
Right, but the state stepped in and blocked it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Rolling back the states that are trying to do that. Put some money towards stopping these kinds of things and actually allowing free business to flow. You know what they aren't stopping though is a pipeline for CO2 for carbon or for CO2 capture that they want to send out west. They're trying to build a line across Minnesota to go out west and pump CO2 into the ground. But we're not going to pump oil back.
Did you just go down some weird QAnon trail right now? Because
no. It's actually, well, if you're in the energy industry, you hear about CO2 and carbon capture all the time. So it's something, we've turned CO2 into something that's now a greenhouse gas. Take into account that plants need it in order to cause photosynthesization and feed themselves. But whatever, it's just one of those things that I see in my industry.
You're not yanking my chain. They literally want to put a pipeline in to pipe captured CO2 out of the state and pump it into the ground out west.
Well, it'd be coming from different businesses, yes, different entities that are CO2 creators, and they want to right through Otter Tail County. There's like a portion, I think it was about 7-mile stretch where they want to send a pipeline through our county. And going out to North Dakota, you drill it into the ground and you put it under a cap about a mile into the ground and you pump CO2 into the ground. But we're not going to take the oil out when we're at $4+ a gallon. And these are the kinds of policies. This is the kind of thinking. And again, I'm going to hammer on sustainability, equity, all these things. It's really,
Let's
the
talk.
globalist agenda.
What time, for one? When do you have to get ready to go to work?
Oh, in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I wasted a good 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You did not. You weren't expecting that. You were like, no, this.
No, I was not.
Yes.
But that's all right. That's all right. These are the kinds of things that come up. You got to take it as it goes.
Yeah. I lost half my subscriber base. I think I dropped down to 200 subscribers.
I thought you just said you had 1,000.
No, I mean, I literally dropped no, I'm kidding.
Funny.
But
so
these are definitely states' issues because
for sure.
Because the federal state has just way too much say in everything.
Yeah.
And they practice unfunded mandates constantly.
Yep.
And there's a time and a place, and I think we've come there, and Bull will like to hear me bring this up, and you'll be familiar with the term. It's guys like you and the new House Republican caucus and others that need to step in and start practicing nullification.
Oh.
And start telling the feds, shove it.
Yep.
You don't get to do this anymore. We're not going to follow that anymore. Spike brought it up last night.
That's great.
And empowering local law enforcement at the state level to tell the feds, you don't get to come in here and enforce that.
Yep.
We've got to get the feds out of the day-to-day lives of the people, and that means getting them out of the day-to-day operation of the state. Do you see that as something that you will be able to work with whether you caucus with a particular group or not? Right. Are you going to be able to work with people to start to bring in nullification at the state level?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great question. Great ideology too. Yeah, I absolutely am on board with that. I want to be making sure that we are, like you say, there was a time where our sheriff, and they technically are, they have the most authority in a county, and then if you break down even further, townships are supposed to be the most sovereign of the state, and we've got these federal agents, and again, a lot of this has to do with.
Well, let's not even bring in federal law enforcement. Let's just talk about the ability of the state to resist the authority of the federal state and tell them, take your policy and your code or whatever and shove it. We're following the Constitution, not just because you pass a law up there in D.C.
Yep.
We're going to do what's right.
How does that normally happen, though, TC? How do they do that? Well, it's with money. They use it with money. That's how they do it. Everything comes down to money and power. And so if we're going to, that's a hard no vote for me when we're going to be taking more money that has more regulation attached to it and more, you got to comply. You got to come in line with this policy or this new, disinformation board or whatever it is. When I lived in Texas for a couple of years and I remember the Texans were they're getting upset about smoking indoors and whatnot. And then there was one about the drunk driving or, the lowering of the drunk driving, what is it?
The blood
alcohol level. Yeah. And there was a fight for a while because they didn't want to do it. And then eventually, what did it come down to? I watched them. They just said, they started pulling the money thing. They started doing the old, well, then we're not going to fund this. We're not going to fund that. And so eventually they come into compliance. And so it really comes down to changing the hearts and the attitudes and the mindset of people to say, hey, we don't need this government subsidization for something. We don't need these programs. We can back away from that. And by backing away from that, we gain our freedom from the Fed and their overextension of their rules, their authority, and their regulation. And we become a freer state and freer people from it. So, voting and speaking about it as basically the avenue that you have. And I look at a lot of this too as to be an educational piece. People such as yourself, elected officials who are willing to write laws in such a way that they actually that the common person can read them, can understand them. That doesn't have to be 2,500 pages in order to be a good law. We should have things like this in our representing who we are. These are the kinds of things we need to be pushing for. Sorry, I didn't see that. What was it?
These politicians are bought are bought by huge donors. This has to stop, and that's the Democrats and the Republicans. Like,
Yeah.
look, we just had to see, and I know you're aware of this. We just had to see the state of Minnesota, the legislation had to come in and say you don't get to be a lobbyist and serve as an
Yeah.
elected member of the House and Senate anymore.
That's crazy.
So you,
How-
like, what? Like,
How long? Yeah.
like, but no, there's no corruption.
Right.
no
Yeah. There's. Oh yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
corruption.
Don't worry about
You're just
that.
a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know you got to get going. So here's what I'm going to do. I'd
All
like
right.
to give you an opportunity sometime to come back on and go through, maybe if you have some talking points, and give your stump speech. I'd like to give you that chance.
Yeah.
As an apology for taking up so much time. And then the
no
other
problem.
thing, the other thing that like I said, I do engage with my chat sometimes, but
Yeah.
sometimes I avoid it just because things like that happen. I haven't had one of those in a long time. So what I'd like to do is give you that opportunity. What I'm also going to do
Sure.
is I'm going to leave this unedited video up,
Okay.
and then I'm also going to download it, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to edit out that span,
Okay.
like cut out that span, maybe
Yeah,
isolate
yeah,
it and put it
fair.
in a different video so that then people can watch it without the distraction. And I
Sounds good.
apologize to my audience for my my rant, for letting myself be distracted by that. And once again, the person's already said they won't do it because they cling to their anonymity. And I'm sorry, in politics, if you have to hide behind something and you say you can't be part of it, then for the sake of anonymity,
Yeah.
I'm out there. People know who I am. They can find out whatever they want about me.
That's right.
I've never hidden who I am and why. So
That's good.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Yeah. We
And,
need the honesty, like you're saying there. So I agree.
And I once again, I would love to have both you and Jordan on to have a conversation together.
Sure.
To say, hey, this is why what we agree on, what we disagree on, and this is why the other one's better than the other. Not necessarily a debate, but definitely a roundtable conversation about your guys' views on things and why you stand on the things you stand on. And I'd give him the opportunity, like I gave you, to come in and do a one-on-one. So
yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, these are the avenues that everybody needs, and that's a great way for people to identify the kinds of policies that they're getting with the individuals that they're voting for or against. So
right, and educate yourselves.
Sure.
So
yes.
You go get ready. I'll do my close. And
all right. Hey, I appreciate it.
Oh no, thanks. Like I said, I'm sorry I took up so much of your time.
Nah, that's
I'm
life.
I'll have to call Carolyn Merle and tell them to scrub their minds from that ugliness. So.
That's all right. All right. Have a good day.
You take care, man. Thanks for your time.
Yep.
Bye. Yeah, I haven't had a rant. Normally when I do a rant, I'm by myself. So I don't get I don't do rants like that. And this is one of those reasons why I tend to only focus on super chats and super stickers, because they're just normally formulated in better questions. What we really yeah, I'm done. Not necessarily, but we're done with GH for a while. You're in timeout. You're not booted. Your comments will still be visible at some point, but you're in timeout right now because you are literally nothing more than a ad hominem attack dog at this point. You didn't really offer anything of substance. I thought you were going to ask some serious questions, but we're done with that for a while. There's no more room for moderates in this movement, ladies and gentlemen. And when I say moderates, see, this is the thing. Listen to this. When I say there's no more room for moderates, there is a group of people out there that are going to get scared that I said that. They're going to get scared that means radicalization, because the left has effectively painted people in this position where if you aren't a moderate and you're not willing to be a centrist and you're not willing to work with the left, the radical left, and the left is radical. There is no moderate leftists anymore. They're still centrists, but the left, there are no more moderates out there. The left is moving further and further and further to the left, and they're pulling the moderate Republicans with them because the moderate Republicans just want to get along to go along, and it's not working. It's not working. And I know people on here disagree with me about whether or not we should arrest people for the election of 2020. I don't want to hear any more about QAnon. I don't want to hear any more about how there's major arrests coming and there's military tribunals. It's stupid. It's not going to happen. Okay? It's not going to happen. There's no QAnon. Okay? I mean, there is a QAnon, but QAnon's not real. Just like Watch the Water isn't real. What the doctor was talking about in Watching Water was just a distraction. Okay? End of story. And we have to stop focusing on what happened in 2020 as far as trying to change it. What happened then? The only thing that we can do now is reform election laws. We have to reform election laws. And just because there are laws on the books that say you don't have to have an ID to vote doesn't mean that can't change. It has to change. It must change for the preservation of our republic, not our democracy. We are not a democracy. We have to stop referring to the democracy of the United States. We are a constitutional republic. We were always intended to be a constitutional republic. The problem is we were never intended to be a two-party system either. The founding fathers despised the two-party system, but they quickly fell into it because it's human nature. We're going to have this camp, we're going to have that camp, and we're going to kill each other socioculturally. We're going to kill each other over these arguments, and sometimes actually kill each other. They like many of them believed in dueling it out. I'm not that guy. I'm an anti-interventionist. I'm a non-aggressionist. And that applies to anything other than you come to me and try to do harm to me or try to do harm to my family. We're going to have a different conversation. Or you invade my nation, we're going to have a different conversation. I don't want violence. I want reform. I want our system reformed. I want to take back the conservative roots of the Republican Party that have been there in my lifetime and have been whittled away. And if we do that by bringing in and recruiting solid libertarians to come and run as Republicans, we do that. Because I don't think we're, at this point, I don't think we're ready for statewide elections where a libertarian, now it can happen. I think Bull's got a good shot at that, but it can happen. But let's start doing what Rand Paul did. Let's do what Ron Paul did. Let's do what some of these other libertarians who are sound and solid philosophically and intellectually, and run them as Republicans because they share the values of the paleo-conservative Republican and traditional conservatives out there. That's what we need. That's really what we need. And you know what? And sometimes we're going to have to get fired up. We just do. We've been playing nice for too darn long. It's time to start cutting dead weight. And if that means, like right now, like I said, we get rid of all the old guard leadership, I'm fine with that. What I saw at the convention last week tells me we have a huge, messy house and it needs to be cleaned. And we need all new leadership in there. Especially the sergeant at arms from last time. That guy should never hold any position in the Republican Party again, ever. That guy was a mad man, and talk about power hungry. I'd hate to see what happened if he got a chairmanship somewhere. But we have got to stop doing the same thing over and over and over again, playing to the middle and convincing them that we're on their side. We just want everybody to get along. I don't want to get along with the DFL. No room for the DFL. They like to murder babies. They like to close down businesses. They like to force you to take a shot. I won't play with those people, and I will not back any Republican who will play with those people. Somebody said on one of my videos last week, we can't win any election, statewide election, with anything other than a moderate Republican. When's the last time a moderate Republican won governor in the state of Minnesota? And what did that moderate Republican accomplish? Notably. Tell me. Something of note that actually represented rocks and cows. Tell me. So like I said, I'm going to leave this up in its totality. I'm going to isolate out my rant to give a more clear conversation. I'm not taking this down. I'm not ashamed of anything I said. I'm not embarrassed by anything that I said. I'm correct. My detractor is, if they are genuinely a moderate Republican, is part of the problem, and they need to be gone from the party, because they're going to go over and reach across the aisle and play with guys like John Thompson and tell us that we have to understand the John Thompsons of the world. And we have to understand that, the governor, even though he made some bad decisions, was only trying to do the best that he could. And we have to keep these powers in place. And you're having way too much of a radical position. And you, there again, accuse me of downplaying January 6th because I wouldn't say what they wanted me to say. That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what's wrong with the Republican Party. So go check out Nate. Find out what he stands for, and don't let the moderates tell you that he's unelectable. I think this kid has got a shot. And quite frankly, I don't care if he's got a Harvard degree or if he's got a degree from a community college. I'm sick and tired of this idea that somehow you have to be Ivy League school graduate to be of any good in the political process. I keep hearing that. What are your credentials? Where did you go to college? Do you have a law degree? Do you have a degree in political science? Some of the best people that have ever served in this country in elected positions have been some of the most down-to-earth, rocks and cows farmer types. Maybe that's what we should be focusing on. Regular people. And my detractor says we don't need regular people. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about the supposed moderate Republicans. They hate the regular people. They're no better than the DFL. So, my friends, once again, not sorry for the rant, just sorry I took up so much of Nate's time. And until next time, as always, live free, enjoy your liberty, and sic semper tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.